Hi, my name is Bonnie and I'm 16 years old. The greatest moment of my life was my adoption. I was so happy with my new family. But then we started having financial problems. I never would have thought that they would exchange me for money. I ended up in an orphanage when I was 10. I took the loss of my parents very poorly and needed a family. I was told that I would get adopted quickly because I was a beautiful child. And that's exactly what happened. My new parents were rich, but my mother, she treated me like a doll. She didn't play with me, didn't hug me. She would just put dress after dress on me. She taught me to do makeup when other girls were still strictly forbidden from wearing any. She told me to get used to it for the sake of my future. It made me very uncomfortable, but I didn't want to upset my mom. My dad held auctions in our house. I loved helping him. Everything was good, but it all changed when we got robbed. All of our expensive things were gone. Father came under investigation and our family started having serious problems. We were bankrupt. I was very worried about my parents. They argued constantly. One time, I told them that money wasn't important as long as we were together. They got so angry with me. Since then, I had been praying that things would get better. One day, my father told me that there would be another auction. I was so happy. But when I went into the hall, I realized that he had put our things up for sale. I felt so sorry for Dad. I knew how hard it was for him. I decided to support him during the bidding. I held his hand and looked at the guests. Suddenly, I realized that a creepy man from the audience was looking at me. He was in all white and was just devouring me with his eyes. I was scared and looked at my dad. I saw that he also noticed this man and was very nervous. When all the guests dispersed, I decided to find Dad and ask him about what had happened. He was standing around the corner and talking to someone. I decided to eavesdrop. He was talking to the man in white. It turned out that my mother had invited him and he wanted to buy something valuable from Dad. I didn't understand why Dad was refusing the offers and was so nervous. We needed money. But then the stranger called my name. I almost cried out, but covered my mouth with my hands. They heard me anyway. I ran to my room and locked the door. I was in a panic. Did my parents really want to sell me? I grabbed the phone and called the police. When the cops arrived, I ran out of my room to tell them everything, but my parents got to them first. They were smiling sweetly and told them that it was a mistake. Their daughter was just very impressionable and didn't understand everything. They had been talking about my portrait. They spoke so confidently, and my portrait really was among the auction items. Had I just misunderstood? I'm such a fool. I felt so ashamed. The policeman asked me to confirm my parents' story, and they were looking at me so accusingly that I said that I was wrong and apologized. Why did I do that? When the cops were gone, my parents were furious. My father took my phone and locked me in my room. I was shocked and felt guilty. I heard them arguing about me. I burst into tears and couldn't stop crying. After a couple of hours, I heard a knock. It was Joe. I had completely forgotten that we were supposed to meet. I wiped away my tears and opened the window for him. We had met at the orphanage and had stayed in touch after our adoptions. No one was closer with me than he was. As he climbed through the window, he saw my tear-stained face, and I couldn't help myself and told him everything. He hugged me and began to console me. He said that he would always be there to protect me, and that I was beating myself up for no reason. I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I kissed him. He wasn't expecting that. I thought that I had ruined everything yet again, but he kissed me back. I had been dreaming of this moment for so long. But something awful happened the next morning. My father caught us. He grabbed Joe and threw him out of our house. I thought I was done for, but Father quickly calmed down and said that we needed to go. Mom was already waiting for us in the car. I didn't know what was going on. All they said was that we were rich again, and that they had a surprise for me. We came to an old mansion. Father turned off the engine. A man came out to meet him. It was the man in white. I was overcome with fear. I watched him give money to Dad. Dad came back, and I was so hoping that we would just drive away. But he pulled me out of the car and led me over to that terrible man. I was screaming and pulling back, but Dad ignored it. But I saw the guilty look on his face. I was immediately locked in a closet. It was very dark and cold. I couldn't believe that they had sold me. It was so painful and scary because I didn't know what was next. I don't know how much time had passed before they dragged me out and started getting me ready for something. Women in white took my clothes and began to wash me. I resisted. It was so humiliating, but they held me tight. Then they put me in a white dress and put a wreath on my head. They led me into a room behind a big red door. I figured out what was waiting for me, and my legs gave way. I realized that shouting was useless. I was dragged to an altar where the man in white was waiting. My hand was tied to his hand with a red ribbon. It was our wedding! After the ceremony, I was locked in a room with a bed. There were a bunch of candles and no windows at all. I became hysterical. I had ended up in a cult. I had nowhere to run, no one to help me. The door creaked and his shadow hung over me. I was imagining the worst. He came over and sat next to me. I started to tremble. Then he put a hand on my shoulder and asked how old I was. I told him that I was 16. I wasn't expecting it at all, but he began to console me. He told me that he needed a new wife, and my mother had offered me. She had told him that I was already an adult and that I wanted to marry him. But for a wedding, he had to pay. He agreed, but now he saw that he had been tricked. I was completely shocked by what he was telling me, and the betrayal of my parents. I asked him how much I had cost. He smirked and replied, "Let's say 10 million and 2 paintings. Does that make you feel any better?" I didn't know if he was joking or telling the truth. He said that he would terminate the deal, and he kept his word. When I saw my parents again, I felt disgusted. They made a scandal and didn't want to return the money. They didn't give a damn about me. But then the man in white said that he would use his connections. So I was back in the orphanage. My parents were put on trial, and the cult disappeared from the mansion on the same day. Fortunately, Joe persuaded his foster family to take me. He did promise me after all. Now we are together. But now it's so hard for me to trust my parents. I still have nightmares about that mansion. Do you think I could have survived that?
Hi, I'm Marion. I'm 19, and the craziest thing happened to me yesterday. I got stuck in an elevator with the guy that I've been madly in love with for 3 whole years. Brad is so smart, so handsome, so popular, and I'm afraid to even talk to him. Imagine that you end up trapped with the man of your dreams in an elevator. Do you know what that's like? It's like being in space without an oxygen tank. Brad pushed the emergency button and kicked the door. It seems like we'll be here for a while. Oh, no! We retreated into our phones to pass the time. I tried to think of something to talk about, but my head was as empty as the Gobi Desert. At that moment, Brad started laughing. I looked at him. Look at this funny picture. It was a picture of a cute corgi dressed as Batman. Underneath the caption was, "This city needs a hero." Oh, look! Something to talk about! Do you like dogs? Brad immediately stopped looking at his phone. Yes, I really do. I have a lab and I'm trying to dress him up, but it isn't working out so well. Before long, we were already happily chatting about dogs. I was so absorbed in our conversation, I even stopped blushing. After about 5 minutes, Brad complained. Ugh, I want a drink so bad. I wanted to buy some water, but I forgot. Next, I gave Brad a mint. Take it. If you eat it, your throat won't tickle anymore. When Brad took the mint, his fingers touched mine. What an unbelievable feeling. Brad wanted to drink, but I had the opposite problem. I drank too much, and now I needed to go to the bathroom. and it got worse every minute. I crossed my legs and started rocking. What's wrong? My back hurts. My muscles are asleep. Brad then took a plastic bag out of his pocket, turned it inside out, and put it on the floor. I didn't want to sit, but this was Brad. He put down a bag for me. Of course, I sat down and needed to go to the bathroom even more. And the light went on in the elevator. I shrieked, jumped, and hung on Brad. Ah! What's that? Everything's okay. They're just fixing the elevator. Don't be scared. We were hugging and Brad rubbed my back. If the elevator had broken and fallen at the moment, I swear I wouldn't have even noticed. And then the lights turned on and the doors opened. See, we're free. I jumped out of the elevator and rushed up the stairs to my apartment. The bathroom. I need the bathroom now! Brad's scream stopped me at the next stairwell. Hey, Marion! Do you want to go anywhere tomorrow night? And there was a still with some triumphant fireworks, soaring hearts, prancing unicorns, or something like that. Yes, of course! And that's how an unpleasant situation brought me closer to the man of my dreams. Has anything like that happened to you?